let's start up by having a little chat about what happened out on the streets. How did you guys feel doing hypnosis in the street itself? What kind of things did you experience? Anyone get a little bit nervous, perhaps? Anyone?
During the daytime, it was kind of weird.
Doing it during the daytime felt a bit weird?
They were kind of like, oh, we're shopping. What are you guys doing?
Right, so people are stopping around, they're kind of, do you kind of get this thing where you're doing your hypnosis and people are looking and going, what's that? And then they kind of shuffle along, they're pretending not to see. Anyone have that sort of reaction?
But a lot of people stopped, did they not? You know, and paid attention. You should still really be aiming to engage at least 3/4 of the people that are passing by.
We'll show you how to start gathering crowds around you and how to start playing with that actually as we go through today. For a moment, it was just a nice taste experience. Did you guys enjoy it? Yes? How many people here actually work with real people rather than the pretend people in this room? Wow, that's pretty good going. That's almost a half, right? That's a pretty good effort. How was it? Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Right? Would it be fair to say that doing it with a normal person, in inverted commas, is identical to what you've been doing in here to what you've been doing outside with people in this room? It's the exact same process, isn't it? Right? Would that be fair to say? So that's all that we're doing. What we're going to do now is we're going to start refining the set piece that you have, putting a few more pieces onto it, and importantly, adding a very important element, which is how do you actually approach people in the first place to get interested? Does that make sense? Now, as we get into that whole topic, please bear in mind that if the idea of walking up to a complete stranger and saying, hey, I'm a hypnotist, I'm here performing today, you guys look like having a lot of fun, do you come and join me and have a little see a little bit about the power of the mind? If that kind of spiel seems a little bit intimidating to you, it doesn't matter. Because you can do exactly the same thing you did today and people will come up to you. Wouldn't that be fair to say it's happened to you guys? There won't be as many as if you approach them, but there'll still be some. And you can do a little mix where you start letting them approach you and then you encourage them in and so on. Does that kind of make sense to you guys?
But the point is that some people seem to feel uncomfortable at this point stating, I'm a performer, I'm a hypnotist.
Right.
And, I appreciate that. I'd actually suggest that you try both.
Let's have fun with it.
But if you say, I've been standing outside a terrible kebab shop at 3 o'clock in the morning and just said, I'm performing here, and got a crowd. And I haven't had a suit on, and we haven't had any cameras with us. It's just, you've put a statement out there and people kind of believe it if you're prepared to say it. So even if it's not performer, using the word hypnosis, saying hypnosis, even if you say it's not hypnosis, I'm going to show you something that will show you something about him. It doesn't matter, it's still useful to put it out there. But if you don't do that, or you don't feel you're dressed for that, or you don't feel you want to present it in that way, then just be someone who knows about it.
Right.
Or demonstrating with your friends, and keep your eyes open, and make sure the rest of the group is supporting you.
It's all easy stuff. And bear in mind, for people walking by, they have no idea that the group you're with is your group. Right? As far as they're concerned, you're just hypnotizing members of the public. And then that's how the whole thing works out. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to approach a complete stranger and get them interested in hypnosis and so on, I'd like to leave one simple idea inside your mind, which, if anything that you do today seems to go against that idea, then stop it. It's not worth doing. Does that make sense? The idea is this. You don't want anything from anyone. You just want to share something with them. You want something for them. Do you see what I mean with this? And this is very important. That is the one key attitude that will send people running like a mile. For example, if you say to someone, do some hypnosis now. Do I want something from him or do I want something for him? Which do you think? From. You can feel that, right? Has anyone here ever asked a stranger the time? Please put your hands up if you have. Has anyone here ever asked a stranger for directions? Please put your hands up if you have. Notice there is an emotional undertone when you're asking for the time or directions, which basically is along the lines of, if they say, I haven't got the time, it's not a big deal, you'll walk away, right? If they don't want to give you the time, they'll go, okay, that's a bit weird, but you'll still walk away, right? You don't want anything from them, you don't need any reaction from them. Does that make sense? So when you're approaching other people, you want to have the same casual, relaxed, but polite atmosphere, attitude that you have when you're saying to someone, do you have the time, please? Right? It's exactly the same. If at any point you find yourself going, do you have the time? You have the time. Come to me. Give me your time machine. right? At that point, you switched over into a different gear, and people can feel that. They can experience that, and that's what makes people walk away from you. Does that make sense to you guys? So just have a good time, have fun with it, and if you find yourself tipping over into like the trying too hard or anything like that, just ease back. And if you need to, by the way, you just go up and ask a few people at a time until you get a sense of like, okay, this is what I feel like when I ask for the time, this is what I feel like when I ask if they want to do hypnosis. And you get that switching effect going on. Does that make sense to you guys? This is very, very important. Also, when you're doing your groups and you're going to wave people over, it still feels like someone might be... has anyone here ever talked to like a sleazy salesperson, someone you know wants to sell you something, but they're trying some little ploy, like, no, it's free, look, it's free, it's honest, it's free, it's free. What is the thought that goes to your mind when that happens?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, that's about it, right? It's like, okay, what's the catch? That's the same kind of thought, the same thoughts that you've had in a shop or in some other place when you've been approached in the wrong way. Those are the same thoughts members of the public will have if they are approached in the wrong way. So you've got to take care of that. And you can talk a lot about what we say and what we do and all the rest of it, but ultimately, it comes down to one thing. That's your attitude. What is the emotional vibe, shall we say, that you're projecting? Is it as casual as, what time is it? Or is it like you need something, you want something from them? Does that make sense? And that means, for example, like when you are doing your little group and you say, hey guys, come on, watch this and have some fun with this. If they say no, say, fine. Instead of saying like, hey, do you want to try some hypnosis now? Do you see how I've switched gears? Can you feel that? Let's say, let's do a little role play with this. Is that okay with you guys? Let's say one of you guys is working over here. I'm going to be the crowd controller to bring people in to build this crowd up a little bit, right? And say Anthony just walked by and say, hey, this is kind of interesting, isn't it? Are you enjoying this?
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Hey, do you want to try some hypnosis now? What has happened? Do you see how I pushed too much? I pushed too soon? As opposed to just having a normal chat like, yeah, it's kind of cool. We're hypnotists here in town at the moment. We're doing like a convention here, so we're like performing for free and stuff like that. So go ahead, just enjoy yourself. Now, which of the two do you think is going to make it more likely that he's going to stay? Right? The second one, right? And then you build that relationship. As they get more curious about it, you might talk a little bit like, did you see what he's doing over there? Well, basically what he's doing is he's opening up their unconscious so that they can have a wonderful experience. You see the smile on their face and that's something? That's why I love hypnosis. Have I asked him to do anything yet? Is he on the spot in any way yet? Do you see what we're doing with this? So that key attitude, you don't want anything from someone, you're just offering them things. You want something for them. If you can maintain that, the whole thing will be easy. If you miss that, no matter how sophisticated the language patterns or the framework you present or the idea you give them or the intriguing little gimmicks you do, people are people and they'll respond to the emotional undertones before anything else. Does that make sense? So have I emphasized this point enough? Can everyone just turn to your neighbor and ask them for the time, please? So that is the attitude that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Now we're going to talk about specifically approaching a group of strangers and what are some of the easiest ways of presenting this so that people go, of course, this is a great thing to do. I would like to partake in this whole experiment. Do you want to run through a little bit of the sort of stuff that you do?
I mean, I'll start by saying it's not a natural thing for me to do. I'm not naturally the person demanding attention, you know, at the centre of a party and that kind of stuff. So I've had to work on it. And some of the things I'm going to say we've stolen from magicians and walk-around magicians, like some of the guys at the back. Some of the things come from people on the street who give out leaflets and need signatures and subscriptions. Charity muggers, or chuggers as we sometimes call them. They're one of our favourite targets. And some of it comes from people who specialise in meeting people, chatting up women and generally having a richer life. So we're going to talk about some of those ideas. The first thing I'd get you to be aware of is, and we've mentioned it a few times, but it's just personal space. So even if it was a row of people or a round table of people, or a dozen people on the street, I'm still going to respect their space as a group and as individuals. So a few of the attempts outside resulted in the would-be hypnotist chasing someone up the street. They're saying, no, come back. You know, and it's a little bit too late. So if people are sitting down, then I generally walk up to them, kind of not directly toward them like this, but I just walk up from the side. I normally have my arms out, so I'm kind of open, I'm vulnerable. There's nothing to hide. And I just give people a compliment. Okay, so the very first thing I'll do is I'll just give people a compliment. I'll say, that's a nice shirt you're wearing. Well, you look like an interesting group of people. You look like an interesting guy. You know, it's a nice eye patch. You know, it doesn't matter. Probably wouldn't say that, actually. But it is lovely. I'd give a compliment. And as long as it's not, bear in mind, you're not trying to pick up people out there. So you haven't got any of that pressure of rejection and that kind of stuff. So I would just generally start by giving people a compliment. I don't want to have a discussion about the compliment. I just want to give them a compliment and they stop. And quite often people aren't used to hearing such things. So you have a moment. And in that moment, I introduce myself. And I just say, hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a hypnotist. Or, I'm Anthony. I'm performing here. I'm a hypnotist. Can I show you something? And that says so much. It says who I am. It says that this is about fun and performance. And again, even if I'm standing on a pavement somewhere, people just seem to accept it. If you stick your neck out and say you're performing, they tend to believe you. If you say you're a hypnotist, I find most people will just believe that you have expertise. So if they're still listening at that point, and they've heard that, then saying hypnosis, putting it out there early on, will result in one of a few different responses. Okay, one response is like, no, hypnosis, no, which is a great response. Fear is as good as any other emotion, and I'm going to raise the levels of emotion at this point. So if they're like, oh no, hypnosis, I saw it at college, then obviously I'm not that kind of hypnotist, or it's not that kind of show. I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to get into the same sort of language we had earlier about a gift. If their reaction is kind of, oh, really, I've never met a real hypnotist and it's interest and fascination, then I'll just hook them in that way. If they have any objection, well, we'll come to that in a second, in fact. The main thing is just to put it out there and state it. And then I'll follow that up with a question immediately. Do you want to play some mind games? Can I show you something really cool? Can I show you something interesting? We're running a convention here. We're giving people free 5-minute sessions of blah, blah, blah. You know, I will say anything I need to say to get that person to stay rooted to the spot. Okay? So, shorthand for that is compliment, give an introduction, and ask a question. Okay? The compliment can be anything, as long as it's not going to be offensive. The introduction should state who you are, what you do, and why you're there. I'm Anthony, I'm a hypnotist, I'm performing here. And the question should be open enough that it basically elicits a response. Okay, and I don't mean that in any fancy NLP sense of the word. I just mean they have to respond to it. And it'll either be interest, curiosity, complete fascination, or even if it's wariness, I don't take that as a no. A no is no, I don't want to be hypnotized and walking away. Somebody saying, oh no, that's scary, that's not a no as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to still try and ease the pressure and get rid of their misconceptions.
So let's do a quick exercise on that if you guys want. Everyone just stand up and put your books down. So we'll come to it in a second, Cassie. What I want you guys to do is just walk around. I remember like early on today, you introduce yourself as the greatest hypnotist or an amazing hypnotist and so on. I'd like to walk around, make eye contact with someone, and then approach them in a really casual, relaxed manner, and do those three things, like, hey, you look like an interesting person.
Just noticed we've got very similar suits.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? That's why I had to come over and talk to you. My name's Igor, I'm performing here today, I'm a hypnotist.
Right.
And you just look like like kind of person that's had an open mind about experiences. Would I be right in thinking that?
I'd like to think so.
So you see all three things done very casually. There's no real energy of like, oh, I want something or I need something. It's just very relaxed and so on. Make sense? So I want you to go walking around and meet as many different people, let them introduce themselves to you, then move on and introduce yourself to someone else. It becomes like a more natural, someone is approached and someone is approaching.
Yeah, I mean, if you're leading this, then you're going to initiate the handshake.
Exactly. You know? If you're leading this, you are the hypnotist and you are in charge of the interaction from start to finish. If you find yourself being the subject all the time, but people keep coming up to you and introducing themselves and you're like, wow, look at all these hypnotists around, that's weird. Make sure that on the next interaction you take control, because it may just be that your initiative is too slow, and that might be one of the reasons that on the streets people are ignoring you, just because you haven't got the right energy level to come in the first place. So this is a great way to find out. Does that make sense? All right, guys, off you go. So we'll carry on with this in a minute. I just want to add something or emphasize something that Anthony was already talking about. Please, when we talk about the compliment, you guys did a great job of this. Introduction, again, I see some very good intros. When Anthony talks about having an open question, the question isn't, do you want to do some hypnosis now? That is a question that demands something of them, right? By open question, we mean the kind of things like, did you know that people only use 10% of their mind? Did you realize that your imagination is more powerful than your will? Did you know that your mind controls your body more powerfully than your will does? Do you see where we're going with this? We're throwing curiosity type questions out there where people go, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and even if it is, can I show you? It's still sharing, it's still giving, rather than
right. So remember the whole watch phenomenon? Every now and again, to just set yourself when you go around, just ask someone like, you know what the time is? Oh, great, thank you. And then you walk on, right? Just every now and again, just throw one of those in. And if you feel a change in your own emotional state and something inside you, then you know that you're switching gears between doing this and just asking for the time. And you don't want that. You want to have one be identical to the other. If I am watching you, I should have no idea what you're asking them, whether you're asking for the time or you're introducing yourself, unless I see you actually hanging around there longer. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? So just you guys throw some open questions at me of the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Give me an example of the open questions you might ask. Did you know people have two minds? Excellent.
Did you know that if you could once you get your unconscious mind on your side, you can actually move mountains?
Did you know you can move mountains with the unconscious mind on your side? Excellent. What else? Did you know you can feel amazing anytime you want? Right? Do you see where we're going with this? It's just some simple oh, tell me more type things. Make sense? So go around, same exercise, carry on with it. Every now and again, just ask for the time and then move on so you can check your own internal state. And then really just cycle through these three very simple phases, very naturally in a very casual conversation. Okay, guys? Off you go. All right. So who enjoyed the exercise? Just put your hands up. Is it interesting? Yeah. What kind of things have you been picking up by not being the hypnotist doing this stuff, but by having someone approach you and doing this in different ways? What kind of things have you noticed? Go ahead. The compliment is essential. Do you notice that? If someone just comes up to you and says, hey, I'm a hypnotist, I'm performing here, there's a kind of a barrier that builds up. We'll come to you in a second. Whereas when you get a compliment, it's like, oh yeah, I kind of like that. Keep talking.
And especially here, people are so used to being tested.
Yes.
Trying to drag in something, but not often they get a compliment.
In Vegas, do not do this kind of street hypnosis. Go ahead. Sincerity, yes.
I just wanted to look at a couple of people that are talking to you and go, that's not sincerity.
So if you're saying these things just as random words, that is there's absolutely no point at all. Remember, people respond to the emotional undertones first, and on all the language and ideas second. Make sense?
Just to say, on that. Yeah, earlier when I said that you can give any compliment. You remember me saying that? Yeah. Seems like hardly any time's passed. But earlier on I said any compliment. That doesn't mean say anything. It means find something that is genuinely beautiful or interesting or fascinating or intriguing about that person. And then you'll have some sincerity. Otherwise, they're just going to think, weirdo, go away. So be sincere.
So when we do the exercise again in a moment, something you guys can do to create more sincerity is before you talk to the person, just stay a few moments just looking at them and see what catches your eye. I got a sense of the ring over there and said, hey, cool ring, look at that. We match, right? It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you take time to actually absorb the person as they are, something will jump out at you like, hey, cool suit, we match, right? The point is, when you say something, you'll be saying it because you mean it, not because you're saying something to say something. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? What other kind of things did you guys notice happening as you were doing the exercise?
Some people were very easy with their conversation, with what they said.
So some people are easy with their conversation.
Others seem to stumble a bit, and
others kind of stumble along a little bit, a little hesitant and so on.
And the ones that stumble, they're nice, but...
And then the people that stumbled, if I can paraphrase, it makes you feel like, yeah, that's nice, but look, goodbye, right? So I remember someone once saying that it's kind of nice, it's a tongue-in-cheek comment, but hypnosis is a confidence game. No confidence, no game, right? So it's not that you're trying to take advantage of people, but you need to present it in a smooth, fluid style. Otherwise, why will they believe that you are what you say you are, right? There is no cultural stereotype of a hypnotist that is the world's most nervous wreck. Like, I am a really good hypnotist. Please sit down and go into trance now. It does not exist. It violates the blueprint that we have, that we've been brought up with unconsciously. Hence, they're not going to believe you, are they? Does that make sense to you guys? I'm sure that someone with a good performance skill could actually turn that into a whole performance skit and kind of a joke, but then it's still a little tongue-in-cheek and so on. So just present it in your own way. Present it quietly if you need to, but truthfully and honestly, so people go, wow, he must be the hypnotist. He's so quiet and like a dark horse, right? It doesn't matter what you do as long as you absolutely believe what you're saying and you let it come out smoothly, right? You were going to add something?
I think that's why this little formula works so well, because you said make it a sincere compliment.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That's flowing. You're introducing yourself. I mean, you should be pretty comfortable in doing that by now. And, you know, the open question, you know, what comes to mind? Or where are you leading them with this?
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea of doing this thing to make a little bit more sense of why we have this very simple structure here, right? And you can refine the things inside of it, but it's more important that you get the idea and that you're doing it with conviction. You're better off doing something really bad with conviction and a genuine positive vibe than something amazingly sophisticated with this undertone that says, do not trust me, run away and call the police. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, one of the places we practice in is it's like a big beer garden. And, you know, we go out and we'll have a drink and that kind of stuff. But if you're walking up to a table with, you know, half a pint of Guinness in your hand saying, hi, I'm performing here this evening, it just falls apart as well. So you don't have to wear a three-piece suit. You don't have to have a swinging watch. I've done this, you know, in jeans and a T-shirt, and it works just fine. But you have to mean what you're saying and appear credible just
Present
because
yourself.
you're confident in terms of what you're saying, and, you know,
Now,
you'll get results.
now that we've said all of that, would you like to have a way of cheating to make it even easier to approach someone so that by the time you actually open your mouth, they're already waiting to hear from you? Would you like to have that? It's a little cheat?
Yes.
This is something which, again, you're going to think it's a mechanical thing, and to some extent it is. However, it's driven by an emotional undertone, and if you don't have the emotions, the mechanics will fall apart, and it'll just come across awkward or sleazy or anything like that. Does that make sense? So I'll give you the mechanics first, and then the emotional elements second, with the understanding that you have to do both, otherwise it doesn't quite work right. Would that be fair? So there is a little signal that human beings give each other all the time. It's something which is part of our, shall we say, primate ancestry. If you look at primates, virtually all forms of primates do the same thing. And it's a little signal that tells other members of your species whether or not they are part of your group. Now, as a hypnotist doing street hypnosis, do you think it would be a good idea or a bad idea to have other people think they're part of your group? Any ideas? It's a good idea, exactly. Have you ever had the experience where you're walking out somewhere, maybe you're going out to the shops or out with some friends, whatever, and someone's on the other side of the road going like, and you're going like, hi, do I know you? And then of course someone comes out the door and you go like, oh yeah, I was just scratching my armpit or something, I don't know. Anyone ever had that sort of experience? What happened to you at that point has nothing to do with the hand. If I do this, right? It's just an odd person standing out there. Even if I make contact with you, eye contact, can you notice there's something flat about it, right? Now, if I just change one thing, and those of you who've trained with me before, please don't say anything just yet. If I just change one thing, who feels a little bit more like, wow, this person's actually, I might know this person. You start thinking your memory banks what's going on. Anyone here have more of a sense of that? What is the difference between the two things I just did? Clearly it's not the hand, right? The eyebrows. So this is known as the eyebrow flash. This is something we've had since the, I don't know, 50s or 60s. It's weird. It's like about 4 people in the psychological community know about it and keep writing about it. No one else seems to know. But it's something that I've seen video footage that spanned since filming began, across all cultures, As long as there's human beings, the eyebrow flash is basically a sign of acceptance. The only place that I know of where you have to be a little more careful is in Japan, where it's considered slightly sexual, in which case, you might get lucky. Or, but then it's not that they don't do it, it's that they suppress it because of cultural reasons. And even there, it's acceptable to do with young children and with close friends, okay? So it's a very natural signal, and the eyebrow flash is not this. Do you see how that's a mechanical mistake? It doesn't seem right, does it? Right? Nor is it this. I can't do machine gun flashes all across the room because that gets misconstrued somewhat as well, right? So the key to the eyebrow flash is your emotional state. Everyone in here, just think of someone that you really like. A friend, someone you're close to. Can you all do that? It could even be a pet. The key thing is when you think of that person, you get this like, oh yeah. Everyone can think of that? Put your hands up if you think of someone like that. Now, as you're thinking, this is going to be good for us in a minute. As you're thinking of that person, what I want you to do is just think of them, imagine that they just walked in the room, and without moving any part of your body, just with your face, just light up and welcome them. Go ahead and do that. Right? That's the eyebrow flash, folks. Right? But notice how the emotions make it natural, right? Some people describe this as the airport flash, but people who haven't seen each other for ages, they'll stand there, they're waiting in the row, and suddenly there's a little row of eyebrows that go, ah! Okay, these guys belong together, like kind of hooked up. So what we're going to do now is exactly the same exercise again. Only this time, I want you to make eye contact with someone across the room, and then remember the feeling that you have when someone you really like, maybe project on top of them, and I just give them a quick little eyebrow flash. Let your whole face light up, maybe even smile, and then go over and shake their hand and do your whole thing. But now, you're going to plant the seeds in fertile soil. Does that make sense? So walk around, and for those of you who want to experiment, from time to time, don't do it. See how that happens, see how that works. Make sense? Any questions? Any questions? All right, guys, off you go. So, before we continue on to the next part, how was that? Did you guys enjoy it?
Oh, yeah.
Was that interesting? Yeah, let's get a little bit of feedback here. This is the interactive portion. Was that interesting, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of things did you experience? Let me just hand this out so you guys can actually be heard by everyone as well. We don't have to repeat it. So do you have a question or a comment to make?
I have a question.
Do you want to take this?
My question.
Yeah, it's on.
My question is how important is it to set the frame by telling the people that you are a hypnotist?
I just find it makes it easier. It's not vital, so it's not that important. We're going to talk about frames, so other ways of framing this, other than saying hypnosis. You could say, we'll get into it in detail about the various, we'll give you 4 or 5 different frames.
In fact, on Sunday, you're going to see one of the assistants who's a magician, performer, who never tells people he's a hypnotist, and whacks them in trance, does all kinds of crazy stuff, and no one knows, is it hypnosis, is it magic? They have no idea. So all it depends is what is the expectation that's inside someone's mind at the time. That's the key thing.
You know, you could present it as meditation. You could present it as a relaxation exercise. It doesn't matter, but when you're trying to raise excitement and perform with it, again, lots of us are here to give people personal experiences. We don't necessarily want to get 60 people crowded around us on the street and feel that pressure. But, you know, an element of this is obviously about performance and being entertaining. And I just find it's easier to get to that point if you say hypnosis, hypnotist, hypnotism, hypnotized, put the words out there early on. It fires up their models of what might happen, and those models are normally massively stacked in our favor. So that, you know, expectation, again, it's not the key element of hypnosis, but I want to raise expectation. And if I say I'm a hypnotist, someone around that table is going to be thinking, uh-oh, it might be me, you know, and that's good enough.
Does that answer your question? What other kind of comments or things do you have? Do you want to come up, or do you pass this back to him? Thank you.
Kind of a comment and question. I found that it was really difficult to do the open question knowing that it was an opener trying to get to the point of being able to do something else.
Right. So what you're describing, did anyone else have that sort of experience? Yeah? What you're describing is exactly what we talked about before, the difference between wanting something for versus wanting something from someone. If your mind is already 2 steps ahead, where you want them to stand here and do something with them, what do you think the chances are that you'll be leaking some kind of sub-communication, some kind of message saying, I want something from you, right? If, however, if you're actually happy, and this is something you can try if you want tonight when you go out, if you're happy to go up to someone and say, hey, I love your tie, it's really cool. Hi, my name is Igor, I'm a hypnotist, I'm performing here tonight. And have you heard about the power of the mind, how amazing it can be?
Yeah, a little.
I know, it's pretty, it's my world. It's really a pleasure meeting you. Goodbye. If you can do that and really be okay with it, you're just having a chat with someone and you're walking off without doing anything, then you're in the right mindset. And then it doesn't matter. If you have that mindset, I can virtually guarantee that the conversation will turn within minutes at most to the point where you want it. And there comes a time when then you can start pushing for it a little bit more, because then you're relaxed, then you're feeling natural. And when you're feeling relaxed and natural, say, you want to learn something about the power of the mind? I'm giving you some free demos here. Just stand up and I'll show you something really cool. And then it becomes very congruent without demanding anything of them. Does that make sense?
At some point, you've still got to put in that call to action.
For sure.
And an open question, have you heard there's 2 minds? Yeah. Do you mean, you've still got to find a response to their response. And at some point, you've got to call them to action. And what he just did there, we're giving some free demos. We're giving this to you. Let me show you something really interesting. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to completely relax? Deeply relax? Yeah, I have.
Think of it this way. Does everyone here have at least one friend in their life? Yes? Just checking. Now, let's imagine you went to this crazy seminar about hypnosis, and you came home so fired up about how amazing this thing is, you wanted to tell your friend about it. Would that be fair to say? Right? You want to share some ideas and so on? Now, what if within the first minute or two of telling them about, this guy's things about hypnosis, the power of the mind, and so on, you go, you know what? It's so much easier if I just show you than tell you about it. Just stand up here, let me show you something. Now, would that be congruent with the conversations you might have with your friends? Yes? Would that be fair? If you can do it with your friends, then the people on the streets are friends you haven't met yet. That's the only difference. Does that help you? Does that help you guys? So the mindset is so important, because if you get into the mindset of now I'm going to have to manipulate him into wanting to volunteer for this hypnosis thing, you've lost before you've even started. Does that make sense? So we need to get out of that mindset. The mindset really is we're offering, we're sharing. If you doesn't want it, it's no big deal. We're not going to push for it. We will offer it for sure, and we'll offer it. The irony is the more experience you get, the sooner you'll be able to cut the chase and offer it, because then your emotional undertones will be very congruent with it, and it won't matter anymore. Right? You can literally walk up to a person and say, hey, you do some hypnosis? And I'll go, all right. But that's because your undertones are so relaxed, so comfortable, so, yeah, this is trustworthy, that can work. Until you get to that point, though, you'll need to do other things to allow your mind to be naturally, calm, trustworthy, and so on. Does that make sense to you guys? Go ahead. Do you want to take this, do you want to pass this back to, here we go, to Cassandra over there? In the red.
It's not that big of a question, but anyhow, just to check. So as long as we have the congruency, within ourselves, it doesn't matter if, say, we do the compliment or if we just do a conversational opener, like, hey, are you enjoying Las Vegas?
It doesn't matter, because if you've got the congruency, then you can already walk up to people and make this happen. If you can, it may not have occurred to you that the vast majority of people out there don't know how to do this. And they stand there looking at people, thinking, are they going to talk to me? Will I look weird? Will this happen? What
and then
if?
they're too busy.
And it's too late. But that's the situation most people are in. So there aren't, as Igor's already said, anything that we're teaching you, none of it is essential. None of it is an essential piece. You can just, as Marcus does, not mention it at all and just get into the phenomena. You can give people a 5-minute lecture about it. There's not a lot of point, because it will become a conversation. The main thing is just to put the idea out there, be friendly, be open and giving, and 3/4 of the people you approach will show interest.
So we can just focus on the congruency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who he lives in London. He's a charisma coach. He just takes people out and shows them how to have a great time. And one of his pet likes, I guess you can call it, is he'll walk down the street. This is London, which is a very, shall we say, people call it an unfriendly city because people are very kind of closed off in their own little world. And I don't know how he does this, but he walks down the road and just goes, hey guys, hi. Eyebrow flashes everyone. Everyone's waving at him. They have no idea who he is, but they like him, right? With that kind of relaxed person, he could literally go, hi, hey, how's it going? Hey, look at this. Look at the side of your hand and sleep. And people go, wow, that's amazing. Where did you learn that? But then he's so congruent with it. He's so natural with it. He's so, shall we say, innocent with it. He has to have this really cool kind of innocent vibe to him. He can get away with it. All this is here to do is to put you in a position where, believe it or not, it's about you being comfortable and you being in a mindset that allows you to subcommunicate that this is all natural and this is all okay. Make sense? So really it's that mindset. I happen to think this is a really a little piece of genius. I think it's an excellent set of frames to present, but please don't eat the bath water with a baby, or however the metaphor goes. This is driven by the emotional state. You can mess this up just as easy as anything else if you focus on the language and not on the context that you're creating, right? Let me just pass this down here.
I went through a divorce many years ago now before I met my lovely wife.
Yay.
And I couldn't approach anybody. And I found a little book that basically talked about if you can talk to somebody for more than 5 minutes, you can become their friend. And I made it my goal to see how many people I could talk to for more than 5 minutes.
Right.
And I would go in a group, and if that one didn't, I went to the next one.
Right.
And it's that sort of attitude. How many people can I put the call to, and whether they take it or not?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens is you suddenly get perspective, right? It's no big deal. If you mess it up in front of one person, I mean, I know you've never messed up any hypnotic induction ever at all, but for the rest of us, it's not a really big deal, is it? You just walk off and go, oh well.
Yeah. Next.
It is not a big deal. Your egos aren't wrapped up in it. And let's put it this way. Let's say you approach 2,000 people and you hypnotize 1,800 of them, but 200 of them were abject failures. Would that be okay with you? 1,800 people are having vivid hallucinations. They're probably still stuck to the railing you left them on. But 200 people are going like, I don't know, couldn't feel a thing, right? So what? The point is you now have numbers in your favor, but you won't get to those numbers unless you're willing to go through those numbers. And the irony is, the further you get along that number of 2,000, the 200 that didn't quite work out with, weirdly enough, seem to be the first few people you meet. So you may as well get them out of the way first and quickly, right? So, unless there's any other questions or comments, good. We're going to take this a little step further now and see if we can elaborate the little set piece we had before lunch break and build that up into a whole street hypnosis routine that you can take out tonight. Now, whether you do it in your little groups and bring people in indirectly, or whether you have, the guts to go up to some complete stranger and eyebrow flash them, be friendly, talk to them, and all the rest of it, that's really up to you. That's a question of style and personal choice. But we'd like to give you, prepare you for a complete cycle of street hypnosis so that you can feel like you've done a real piece of performance. Would you like that, guys? So do you want to take them through the...
Yeah, let's pick a subject. Girl this time. You'll do just fine.
Come on up, give her a nice round of applause.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. I'm Anthony. You look a little nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sorry.
Take a seat. Are you happy to be hypnotized?
Yes.
You sure? Quick demonstration. Okay, in fact, just turn your seat round a little if you would. That's right, just like that.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. How do I say your name?
Kristen.
It's a beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right.
Okay, let me just show you something, okay? Just put your hand up here, right up here. Look at the lines on it. Look at one spot. Now it's going to move towards your face. As it does, your eyes will begin to change focus. And then you can just close your eyes and sleep now and relax, deeper sleep. You're good at this. Just let go of every muscle, every nerve and fiber. This arm can relax completely. Relax. This arm can just let go. You will not fall off the chair. It's as if you've got a seatbelt on. You're completely safe, well and protected. You have a super powerful mind and it's working for you. Just go deeper and deeper down now. Now I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to do what I was supposed to be doing. 1, feeling wonderful. 2, drifting right back up. 3, feeling fantastic. 4, energized. 5, feeling great about hypnosis. Okay. Pause. That's just not what I was supposed to do.
I thought it was entertaining. I like that.
It was. We'll start again. Okay. Do you want to put your shoe on or lose the other one? Okay. Kristen, how you doing? You happy to be hypnotized?
Yes.
Cool. I'm just going to take you through a few really simple exercises.
Okay.
I'll ask you to concentrate. I don't want you to pretend. I'll ask you to imagine stuff. There's no need to fight it. So, use imagery, get ideas going through your mind. I'm sure you'll find this easy to do. Okay, let's start with just an exercise in concentration. Put your hands out in front of you like this. Clasp them together, really tight, palms together. Really tight as you can. Bend your elbows like you're making a desperate prayer. This is where most people make one. Put your first fingers up about an inch apart. Just like that. Look at the gap between your fingers. In a moment they will touch like they're two magnets being pulled together. That's right. You can allow your eyes to close and just relax. Don't go to sleep just yet. Just let your hands drift down. Now I'm going to separate your hands and your eyes open. Good. That shows me you can concentrate. We'll do a very similar thing. I'll ask you to place both hands out like this. So I'll just show you first. I know you're keen. Right. I've put both hands out. You're going to imagine there's a huge magnet here and a huge magnet here pulling your hands together. Again, don't act. Don't pretend. Just concentrate and you'll actually feel this energy. Okay. So place your hands out in front of you. Just like this, imagine a huge magnet here and one here. Look directly at the gap between your hands, not on me, not anywhere else. Get a clear picture of them stuck out there. Now close your eyes. When your eyes close, imagine that real or imagined force is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. With each move of your hands, closer and closer together. Stronger and stronger. When they touch, again, you can just drift down into a relaxed state. That's right, deeper, deeper down. Let this hand relax, let this hand relax. You're doing wonderfully. Now I'm going to say the words 1, 2, wide awake. When I do, your eyes will open and you'll be ready to be hypnotized. Nod your head when you understand. That's right, 1, 2, wide awake. Excellent. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right hand.
Cool. Can I just borrow your hand? Look right up here. Look at the lines on it. Look at one spot. As this moves towards your face, your eyes are going to begin to change focus. And as you become aware of your eyes, you can just close your eyes and sleep now and relax deeper down. You won't fall off the chair. You'll find a comfortable position. You're safe. You're well. You're protected. Nothing can harm you now. Nothing can bother you. You have a super powerful mind and it's working for you. And you're going to enjoy this experience. You can just let go for a time. No outside sound's important to you now, just the sound of my voice and your imagination. Now I'm going to count to 5, all the way down to 0. And with each number I go past, you're going to become twice as deeply relaxed. Again, you won't fall off the chair. You remain sitting where you are, twice as deeply hypnotized. And you're going to drift toward this imaginary 0 in your mind. It's like a target. On the other side of that 0 is a profound state of hypnosis you may have never experienced before. So picture that in your mind, that 0 in the distance. When you can see it, just nod your head. And then begin drifting right through space, out of your body now. Just as a mind. 5, deeper relaxed. 4, closer and closer to that 0. 3, getting more excited about drifting into that profound state of hypnosis. 2, deeper and deeper down now. 1, see it like a giant 0, like a doorway. You're just going to drift right through. And 0, deeper sleep now. Deeper sleep. You're doing wonderfully. Now in a moment I'm going to touch the back of your left hand. I'll touch the back of your hand. It will begin to lift up off your leg up towards your head. All by itself. You have a complete sense of involuntariness about that. You can imagine it happening all by itself. So I'll touch this hand. Again, you'll feel it starting to lift up very slowly. It will just drift up on a cushion of air towards your head, like your head's a magnet and your hand's a magnet. You'll enjoy this sense of well-being. When it touches your head, it will start to seem funny. Right away, it will start to seem funny, and that laugh is going to grow. It's going to get funnier and funnier. Genuinely, like when you crack up laughing, you try and tell a story, you can't even tell it. It's so funny. That's how it's going to be, and there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to laugh out loud. Next time I click my fingers, you laugh as inappropriately as you possibly can. That's right, as inappropriately as you possibly can. You're going to laugh like a pig. It's terrible. I'll tell you what, I click my fingers again, you stop laughing like a pig. You're going to laugh like an evil demon with an evil cackle. That's how you're going to laugh. That's right, you are an evil demon. I click them again, you'll laugh like the laughing policeman. There's nothing you can do about it. That's right, that's exactly how you're going to laugh. The funniest thing of all is you try and pull your hand off, you'll find it's stuck. You'll find it's glued there. And even that's going to seem funny to you. Put some effort in. Try and unstick it. Find you cannot. The more effort you put in, the more difficult it's going to become. I know it's a very strange feeling, but you can even open your eyes and look at it. It will remain stuck. Is that your hand? Is it your hand? Are you sure? How long have you known you can move your hand?
What do you mean by that?
How long have you been able to move your own arm?
I believe since I was born.
Really? So is that stuck to your head now?
Yes, it seems to be.
It seems to be stuck. Okay. I'll tell you what, just place your other hand onto the table and look at the back of it. Do you think you can lift that hand?
Yes.
Try and lift it. Strange, isn't it? Now, I'll tell you what, if I was to offer you like, I don't know, $100, do you think you could touch it?
Touch what?
Do you think you could take hold of that? For $100. Man, I can get it for $10. Seriously,
yes.
you think you can touch it? Yeah? Try and pull your hand off your head. But imagining that's impossible. Imagining you've got a complete sense of involuntariness about it. That's right. Put some real effort in. I know you can see you moving your fingers. It's close, but it's not quite close enough. I'll tell you what. I'll bring it a little bit closer. If you touch it, you can have it. Sleep now. Deeper relax, deeper relax, deeper relax. Letting go, sinking, floating, drifting down to sleep. And you can take all this on board. You can take a great amount of learning from your experience up here. Because in a moment, you're going to wake up absolutely refreshed, absolutely alive, feeling fantastic, in the perfect state for absorbing new information, new ideas. You're going to find when you go out later on this evening, when you're practicing in here during the day, you'll do this with a wonderful air of confidence. You'll just be your best self. You'll be on top form, free of inhibitions. Well, you can have some inhibitions, appropriate inhibitions, but you can be free of any doubts, free of any cares, free of any inhibitions. So I'll count to 5. On 5, you'll wake up. It'll be like a rush of adrenaline going through your system. You're going to be feeling fantastic, like a superstar. So 1, feeling wonderful. 2, feeling a surge of energy pour in through toes, fingers, up arms, legs, spine, neck, to the top of your head. 3, take a deep breath in. Feel your chest, energy-giving oxygen going through your system. 4, your head washed through with cool spring water. And just 5, eyes open and wide awake. Thank you, Kristen. That's very good. Let's just talk about the couple of extra things we've done, because I've done the same thing a couple of times, and that's because I don't like to work too hard. I genuinely do the same sort of openers nearly every time, and where I go after that point is going to be dictated by where I am and who I'm performing for, and what is acceptable, or what research you're doing, which obviously opens up any door. So the way I sort of rack up through the phenomena is, first of all, to think of physical analog phenomena. So the first phenomena I went for was arm levitation. Now, clearly, she's a capable subject. Sometimes you're going to have to work a hell of a lot harder than that to get someone's hand up to their head. But I know I could spend 3 or 4 minutes quite comfortably talking someone's hand up to their head by pacing what's happening and by encouraging it. But let's just say that that's really my first suggestion after sleep. I did a bit of deepening there. It's not massively sophisticated or complicated. It was a count from 5 to 0. I just asked her to sort of dissociate from her body a little. But that works very well, just as well as saying deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then that was really my first. Another little soft test was when I said you go for that 0 into profound hypnosis. Now, there was a nice clear indication that she had gone into what she believed to be a deeper level of hypnosis or state. She gave in a little bit more of her neck and her shoulders and that kind of stuff. So again, that's not always going to be apparent, but that's another good sign, or like another green flag or green light. And just to get you used to kind of giving suggestions now, I find it is so much easier if you give the person a little bit of time to process that idea that you're presenting. So I'll say, in a moment, I'm going to touch the back of your hand, and it will begin to lift up. It's just like this, really. I nearly always state, don't hit your wife around the back of the head like that.
You saw that.
On camera. I nearly always state what is going to happen, okay, to get the idea in their head. In a moment, I'm going to touch the back of your hand, and it will begin to lift up towards your head. I'll then state it again, but normally slightly more indirectly, And I'll then give them some imagery or, some metaphor. So in a moment, I'll touch your hand and it will begin to lift up. That would be direct. It will just drift upwards, all by itself, up towards your head. As if it's attached to 1,000 helium balloons, as if it's pushed on a cushion of air, as if it is, filling up with helium. It doesn't, again, really matter what the imagery is, as long as you can keep with it and keep describing it. And if it's something you can increase, like balloons or more air or more wires or whatever, then that helps. As soon, again, you couldn't really see this because she responds so well. At some point, we'll pull someone out who isn't immediately as capable, but walk up these steps, you just become capable. But if you're seeing this, if I'm seeing like a tiny finger twitch or one finger twitching like this, then that's as good as that to me. I'm just going to use that. That's right, your finger twitching, all by itself, beginning to move. So, although we don't really get into theory too much in this training, and there's no real need to, one theory that means a lot to me is you're asking people to do things, and you're encouraging them to experience those things they're doing as happenings, as experiences. Okay, so quite a lot of the language I was using there, although I could have just said, you can't move it, you can move it, you can't, you can, was for your benefit. So I say, you can imagine it's like this. You can, as it drifts up all by itself, all of this language suggests this is just happening to you. And I even encourage her to have a complete sense of involuntariness about that act. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah? That's what we're doing with our language, whether it's direct or indirect. We're asking people to do stuff and change their perceptions of the experience. So sorry, let me just finish with the demo. So the hand starts lifting, and I know when that's my physical analog phenomena, meaning any amount of levitation is going to be a win for me. Okay? The next phenomena that I'm interested in getting out of someone is a change in their emotions. So as that hand lifts, again, I'm going to be slightly ambiguous with how I do this, but I'll say as it lifts up, you're going to enjoy a sense of well-being, an unusual sense of well-being. In fact, this will start to seem funny to you. Now, if the person doesn't laugh, because we're not at a place where I can get the emotional shift, it doesn't really matter, because funny can mean, yeah, it's a bit weird, my hand's lifting. But if I get the tiniest little smile, then again, it's like, excellent, here we go again. That smile is going to grow, it's going to turn into a chuckle, that's going to turn into a laugh. And I'm always looking for moments when things happen, like the moment it hits her head, the moment it touches her lap, the moment, it lifts off or whatever. So we went through a physical analog phenomena, we went through emotional phenomena, where she's laughing, which is a feel good. You could just do your gift at that point and just leave it be. You don't have to make people laugh like a pig, but as she does that naturally anyway, we had to go to Laughing Policeman and something else. But laughter is good, and I will normally take people for a few different laughs. That is a massive prover to people watching as well. And when you've really got the laughter rolling, then I went for physical binary phenomena. I've now stuck a hand to her head. Again, this is a stronger test. This can fail. Right? But that's not where my mind's at that point. It's just like, and as you laugh, that hand is sticking. You're going to find this even funnier. And she tested it, and that again is the evidence to you that she's not just playing along at this point, because she's, looking a little bit ridiculous trying to pull her hand off her head. And just in case you don't believe, then put your money where your mouth is and see if it's stuck. If they get it, you can always bellow sleep and just take it back anyway.
And you forget all about this.
But hopefully that makes sense in terms of that's like a rapid scaling up through phenomena. If you can do magnetic hands with people, and I'm sure we haven't practiced it yet, but I'm sure most of you have experience of that, then you can do arm levitation. It is the same thing. It's a bit like Igor saying, catalepsy up here where you can't move your hand is the same on the table. It is. It's just the muscles are balanced and it gives the impression you can't move. That's your perception of the experience. Okay. So
let's have a question here and then we'll do some exercises.
Yeah, I was just when you had Kristen's hand stick to the table, I didn't hear you tell her that it was going to stick to the table.
That's right. We'll talk about that on day 3. It's called permanosis.
Yeah. There are ways of cheating.
That's not cheating. It's my greatest insight ever. No, there was a suggestion. It's very simple. I said, put your hand on the table. I'm still very much being the hypnotist at this point. Look at the back of your hand And I'll tell you what the suggestion was. Do you think you can lift it up? You know, do you think you can lift it up? Why on earth would you not be able to lift your hand up? So I'm just giving a little bit of doubt. I'm giving an idea that you won't be able to lift it up, and yet there'll be nothing you can do about that. That's what that sentence communicates. But we've done that. Marcus did it to someone he hadn't hypnotized at all earlier. He just recognized him. And he said, yeah, Marcus, do you think you can lift your foot up? Yeah. Stuck to the floor instantly. No induction. Okay, so it's just another idea. It's just that one kind of passes people by.
By the time we get into day 3, you will have enough experience to know how that worked. And though you may not have necessarily the gumption to go out and do it straight away, there'll come a point where you just recognize the moment, you think like, all right, why not? And it's kind of very interesting the first thing that happens. But for the moment, just enjoy where you're at now. We're going to build skills bit by bit, and we're going to start building up to them. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. Just try and keep this. There are different ways of looking at the phenomena. This, again, is not a rigid structure. But if you look back through lots of the history, I mean, Eagle wrote a brilliant book. Part of it was about Estabrooks, and you should all read Estabrooks' stuff. I didn't read it. I did hypnosis 15 years before I read it. When I read it, it was so in line with my book, Reality is Plastic, in terms of how he racks up through the phenomena. Even the techniques are, very, very similar. But that's how I like to progress. And the reason I like to progress in this way, and I was talking to you about this earlier, is that I know I can walk up to a group of people on the street, engage them, do magnetic fingers and magnetic hands, and walk away and have done a demonstration that is entirely credible and given people a bit of an experience and a bit of a laugh. Just because they weren't dancing like chickens does not mean I'm not a hypnotist or I'm leaving with egg on my face. So that's what actually gives me the comfort to do street hypnosis, is that I know I can do this to enough people that I will find my stars, normally pretty quickly, but eventually I will find people who I can take further. Because this is all about physical idiomotor phenomena, it's just a basic fact of life. You think something, your body seems to respond. This, and getting this finger moving and hand lifting is exactly the same skill set. So this may look different and more dramatic, but it's really more of the same. Okay, so again, I'm very, very comfortable operating at that physical analog level. Yes, you've got to stick your neck out at some point and stick someone to something. I'm not saying it's like particularly highbrow, thoughtful routine, but it will be a prover to you as a hypnotist that now I've got them. Now I know this is not just feel-good playing along. Now they're looking confused. Now they're looking baffled and they're stuck. So that's why I make that distinction between analog and binary. Binary just means they pass or they fail. They stick or they don't. They remember or they don't. And I didn't really get into any mental phenomena, but the next thing I would have done with Kristen was going to, which we're going to do, I think, tomorrow. But we're going to get into amnesia and hallucinations and all that kind of stuff. But that would be the next suggestion. You can't remember your name. Yeah.
Anthony, I've had the experience where you try to stick someone's hand on the table and say, okay, you can't lift it. No, take it off like a half inch. What do you consider that? There's different things that could be. That could be them proving to you that they can, in which case you might need to work a bit harder at that point. Say, that's right, it just lifts a little, put it back into the table and hammer in the suggestions again. Sometimes when people do that, that's as far as they can lift their hand. That's the point. That you may have gone for it being heavy rather than being stuck. If you've gone for so heavy you can't lift it, and they really strain to lift it, then as far as I'm concerned, you're still winning. That to me is the equivalent of doing a stiff arm. And when you say it's completely stiff and rigid and they bend that much, you say, that's right, it bends a little and it springs straight back out again. If you catch that and give it another push, very often you'll snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. So sometimes it fails. Yeah, sometimes people are still at the point where they want to please you and they want to have the experience. They don't want this to fail either, not just for you, but because that's what their friend did and they want to know if they're capable. But if it's just that, that's pulling your hand off your head, that's lifting your hand up off the table. I will just try and gauge it. And some of the time it's worth pushing and trying even harder, twice as stuck, twice as heavy. Some of the time that's the point to bail and backtrack to an easier class of phenomena, which I will do. That will be a nice out for me. Any other questions?
Okay, guys. So I think what we'll do is we're coming up for a break now. So we'll take a break, then we'll come back, talk about a few things, and then we'll slowly build up to actually doing all the stuff you see Auntie do today. It's actually very easy to do once you get the feel for it. But my great acuity tells me it's time for a little break, have some drinks, have a little relaxation and so on. Please be back here in 15 minutes. We will start back at 4 o'clock on the dot. So if you're not back, you might miss the one magic technique you need. Off you go.